Welcome back to the Living Proof Recovery Podcast. We're your favorite podcast host. I'm Evan. This is Brian.
What's up, guys?
Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about some fear.
Ooh.
So, just kind of getting into that a little bit. Something that was, the way an acronym for fear that was presented to me was false evidence appearing real.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that made a lot of sense for me. So I figured maybe we can go ahead and just kick it off, let you talk about, did you have any experience with that?
Yeah, so fear, false evidence appearing real. Fear is a liar.
Mm-hmm.
Fear is like the biggest lie ever, right? Because nothing that we are afraid of, well, I shouldn't say nothing, right? Predominantly, it's irrational, and it's based on emotion. It's not based in fact. Mm-hmm. I'm afraid, I don't have control. So like you said, false evidence appearing real. It's a lie. It's false, right? I don't know that this is going to happen, but I get myself so worked up that I have all these scenarios planned out in my head that this is the way this thing is going to turn out, and I'm scared, and it never turns out that way. Right. So what I want to do, so another acronym for that, right, is fuck everything and run. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's what I always did. It's like, I don't like the way this feels. I'm going to avoid, I'm going to run, I'm going to hide, and I'm not going to face it.
Yeah.
And the tricky thing about that is all that does is cause more fear and more anxiety.
Yeah.
Right? Because fear induces anxiety. And the more that I try to avoid it, that whatever that thing is, it's not going away. Like I'm going to have to face it.
Yeah.
But what I do is I prolong that, and say a week later, now I have to face it, but I've caused myself all this undue stress, anxiety for a whole week, where I'm just sitting there worried about this shit, about how it's going to go. If he says this, then I'm going to say that. If they do this, then I'm going to do that. Or I know this isn't going to work out. Or, all the inner dialogue that we have, whatever the fear is, it's usually something like, I'm not good enough. I'm going to look stupid. They're not going to take me seriously. Whatever it is, I end up having to face it anyways. So I might as well face it up front and deal with it, and it's never that bad. There hasn't been one scenario in my 5 years of being sober that I've faced a fear that it's been as bad as it was in my head.
Oh, yeah.
Not one. It's not even close. And I'm like, oh, that wasn't that bad.
Right.
Even if it is, like, so hypothetically, even if it was, okay, so I'm going to put it off for a week and cause myself all these problems for a week for the same result that I could have got on day one. Mm-hmm. What's the drawback of facing it?
Right.
There's not one.
So do you have a specific example you can give, something that you dealt with, whether it was in early sobriety or recently?
Recently. Today. I had an example today. I typically have stuff like this on a daily basis. The difference is today is I actually face them. I don't run from it today. So there's so many acronyms, right? Another one is face everything and recover.
Yeah.
Right. So today I face it. So today had a life situation come up. We've talked about it. Normally I would have been so anxious over what happened today.
Right.
I'm not going to get into the exact details of what it was, but we'll just put it this way. I had an opportunity that I went into, and instead of stressing myself out, so like last night, I sat there and I was like, all right, I'm going to do a little research, make sure I'm prepared. And I prepared, and then I left it at that. I was like, okay, I've done the preparation. Now I just got to go execute. Faith over fear.
Yeah.
Right. That's what my sponsor tells me all the time. I got up this morning, I meditated, I prayed, and I just said, you know what? It's going to work out.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, it wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
And I went into this thing confident. Like I've never went into something like a situation like this confident. And I went into it with the mindset of, if it doesn't work out, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like if it does, I'm okay. So I actually faced it and it went very well. But old me, I would have got myself all worked up and then I would have stumbled over my words when I was there and I would have been all probably sweating profusely, and just people would have been like,
Yeah.
you high right now, bro? Like
Right.
what's going on with you?
Yeah.
But it's the mind shift, right? Of going in there, God's got me. I'm confident. I've done the work, so I'm good. And I'm good with the outcome. I don't have to control it. I'm just going to go in, be me, and see what happens.
Yeah.
And it was so much easier than trying to control every single thing or have an answer for every question. I was like, I'm just going to go in and just be real.
Right.
And I did, and it went off great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that just happened today.
Yeah. So I took a different job opportunity recently, and
Terrifying. It can be.
I was terrified. I didn't know what to expect or what it was going to be like. But and I was scared and I was anxious and, all these things that I felt, I knew that they were all just stemming from fear of the unknown.
Right.
All right. So I just did it. I
Yeah.
just said, sure, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take this opportunity and just see what happens. And so far, so good.
Yeah.
It's going pretty well so far. So I just look at different, with over 4 years sober now. It was, I took, when I was a month sober, I took a different job, a different opportunity because it was what I needed at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But now 4 years later, it was like, I want something different. I want to try something different and get out there and put myself out there and see what happens. And, if this opportunity would have presented itself earlier on, like my fear would have just kept me right where I was at.
Immobilized you.
Yeah, I would have stayed right where I was at and just been like, nah, I don't want to do it. I'm just gonna be content over here.
Yeah.
So this was something for me stepping out to do something that I've never really done before. Somewhat have, in a sales capacity, but ultimately I haven't. You know what I mean? But I look back I try to look back to like early on in recovery as well. I was so scared of everything, right? Whether it was just talking to people, meeting new people, like fear played such a role in my life, and I missed out on so many opportunities and relationships and great things that probably could have happened for me, all because of fear.
Yeah.
Right. And I used to let it just consume me. But through this process, like you said, we have to face it at some point. And, there was a lot of things I did early on in my recovery that, whether it was practicing certain things, or just listening, a lot of motivational speakers, and they talk about this stuff, you know what I mean? And it's just getting uncomfortable is how we grow.
Yeah, it's the only way.
That's the only way we grow.
Yeah.
Uncomfortability is how we
Failure
grow.
is an asset,
Yes.
right? Like, so I would much rather, I can lay my head down at night if I gave it a shot.
Yeah.
Like, think about sports analogy, baseball. I would rather strike out swinging
Yeah.
than just never swing and just watch every pitch and hope to get walked. I'm going to take a swing at it, because I can't hit it if I don't swing at it.
Right. Yeah.
So I got to take a swing. And what's the worst thing that's going to happen? I fail. Okay, good. Okay, now I have something to push off of to learn from. Now I have an experience that I can learn from. That's how that's how we grow, right? That's how I get better. I need some kind of springboard, some kind of resistance, something to keep me hungry. It's like, oh, okay, I didn't get that job. Okay, why? Why didn't I get that job?
Yeah.
Okay, now I can look at that and say, okay, next time I know not to say this in an interview, or I know to do this in an interview. And, you said something about being content, right? Like, that can be troublesome for us if we're content. Right, like that's always everyone's go-to in treatment when they ask how you're feeling. I'm content. It's like, no, you're not.
Right.
First of all, you're a liar.
Yeah.
But you're not. You're good with being here in treatment, But I'm good. I can't think of anywhere else I'd rather be. That's a lie.
Yeah.
But anyways, being content, like there's nothing wrong with being content but at the same time, it's like, am I really content or am I just settling?
Yes.
Am I settling? Am I saying I'm content because I'm scared to take a risk? Like, who gets rewarded? The people that take risk.
Yeah.
Like I said, so to relate this, like you brought it up, like early in sobriety, right? We're taught that there's no half measures avail us nothing, right? And it's the same thing, whether it's something in life, you're going for a new job, you want to ask some girl out, you want to ask for a raise or a promotion, public speaking, whatever the fear is, right? We can't just dip a toe in the water and see how the water is. It's like when it's time to go, you got to go. You either dive in or you stay out. Yeah. It's like, make a decision. It's like, okay, I want this job. Okay, then I got to be all in, and I gotta take my shot, shoot my shot, and but then leave the results up to what they are. It's like if I do the work, just like in early recovery, I had to dive in. Right, I can't just dip a toe and say I might work some steps. I might do some service work. I might do a couple meetings here or there. Like, no, I got to be all in.
Yeah.
Like I can't recover in fear.
No.
Now a lot of us do. We try to, right? Because that's just the process, right? That doesn't just go away overnight. But I can't continue to just recover and be scared all the time about everything. Like, oh, I can't go places.
Yeah. Because
I'm scared that I might drink. I gotta have. We always talk about faith. And higher power, right? So it's like, well, are we going to put faith in this thing or not? Do we really have faith? Well, I have faith in my higher power. Okay, well then step out on some faith. Step out there. Put yourself out there. Yeah. See what happens. Because the people that do that are the ones that get rewarded. The ones that just play the back, sit on the bench all the time. They don't get, they're not on the highlights on SportsCenter. They're not making the game-winning shot. They're not in the game. You got to get in the game. You don't necessarily have to be the all-star, but you got to get in the game.
Yep.
And that's kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah. Fear. God, I just look back at my life, and fear affected me in so many ways and I still get fearful today. I'm not saying that I don't, but I know how to handle it today.
Yeah, you actually hit you by handling it.
Right. Actually handle it. All of my negative emotions, they always stemmed from fear for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an evil and corroding thread. It touches everything.
Anxiety, depression, anger, all these things, they just stemmed out of fear in some form, right? Mm-hmm. So I can, back to when I was using and I was in the madness, fear kept me running longer.
Yeah. I don't want to feel this detox. I don't want to feel this detox. I don't want to tell my wife and my family that I relapsed. What's going to happen?
I don't want to walk back into the meeting and tell my sponsor and other fellow members that I relapsed and they're judging me. So much fear and just coming back. And then getting into, step work. Mm-hmm. That's scary in itself, but like you said, we can't recover in fear. Like, we have to be able to walk through it and face it. And telling people, or my sponsor, things that I did, and and they're looking at me like, you did what?
Like you got two heads.
Yeah, like, and I'm in the middle of, and
what was that you were talking about with the goat? What was that? Yeah.
Right. So, but even now, 4 years sober, and I'm, I'm going back through the steps again, and I'm doing this 4-step inventory, and I'm listing out all these fears that I have. And, I'm going through and I'm writing them down, just different fears. And as I'm done writing, and I just glance at the paper.
That was dumb.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it and I'm like, man, this is just me. Like, you know what I mean? It was just like, and I wasn't ever able to see it that way in the beginning.
Right.
I had to have somebody smacking me upside the head and pointing it out, but now it's like I'm able to see those things, and I know what to do to get through them and how to deal with it. And the only way to get through it is head on.
Yeah.
With your head up and just go, and speaking at meetings or taking somebody through the steps for the first time, that was terrifying for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, man, like, well, fuck this guy up. He's already fucked up. So just go. Let's get it done.
Yeah.
So just face it. When it come to us doing this podcast.
Oh, we were terrified.
Yeah, terrified. And I just called you randomly one night and was like, dude, what are we doing?
Yeah.
We've been talking about this
dragging our feet
for 8 months now.
Yeah, full of fear.
Like, let's just go. Let's just try it. Yeah.
If people don't listen, that's cool.
Yeah.
They don't listen to us now.
It's just about stepping out on a little bit of faith to get through that fear, right? And just because, even like you said, we're gonna fail still. There's a video out there, and it's called, I believe it's called "What do you do when God says no?" And that's what they talk about a lot is
rephrase the question.
Do what?
Rephrase the question. Ask the question to him in a different way.
Yeah. No, but it's just there. He's just talking about, like, what do you do if you step out in faith and God doesn't allow what your plan was and to happen? Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Do you just quit? Do you just crumble up and
no?
Like,
can't, man.
I'm just gonna.
If you want to keep getting the same result you've always got, that's what you do.
Right. Absolutely. And going back to this new job position that I took, I guess that was in the beginning of February, so almost a couple months in now, I guess. But this opportunity was there like a couple years ago, and at that time, like, I briefly thought about it. But at the end of the day, I didn't do it, and I just stayed where I was at, and I was like, no, I'm content here. I'm okay. But really what happened was, in certain aspects, I was content with it as far as, like, the money at the time, financial stability. I was okay with that. But I was so discontent in so many other aspects of what I kept myself in. And really and ultimately it comes down because it was the fear of the unknown. I didn't know
comfortable.
I was comfortable there. I didn't know what was going to happen, even though there were so many other things in that position to where I was just like, I was miserable with it.
Yeah.
I was miserable. And, it's just funny how things kind of work out sometimes.
Yeah, I think we have to find, just like it says in the book, right? It tells us that God could and would if he saw it, right? So we got to look, right? And it's the same thing when it comes to professionally, our careers, or anything that we have some kind of aspiration to do, right? We got to look. Like, it's not just going to, God, I don't think. I'm sure this has happened. I'm sure there's exceptions, like things just fall in your lap. Like that does happen, but that typically happens because you've been doing the right things, and then it falls in your lap. It seems like it's luck, but I don't think it's luck. But we have to look for things. Like we have to try new things. We have to see like what we're good at, what we like, how does this make me feel, when I do this, I was terrified the first time that I ever spoke at a meeting. It was like someone asked me to tell my story and I was like, yeah, I don't know about that, bro. It's like, no, nobody wants to hear what I have to say. I'm going to stutter. I'm going to lose. I'm going to have a brain fart right in the middle of it. And, I think, our perspective on things a lot of times is warped as well. It's like, I think I know how things are going to happen, or the way we can manifest things, right? So it's like, if I wake up and I say, man, today is going to be the world is a scary place. The world's going to be a scary, dark, gloomy place. People suck, then my day is going to be full of dark and gloomy things with people that suck. It just is. Like we manifest these things, or I can't find a good meeting, then every meeting I go to, I'm going to be in there nitpicking, looking for a reason why this is a bad meeting. Right. Why it's not a good meeting, right? Or I can't find a sponsor or whatever. But if I go into it with a different attitude of, maybe people don't suck. Maybe today's going to be a good day. Maybe some good things are going to happen today. Then my day typically goes better when I approach things that way. Yeah. Right. And we were talking about like fear of this, fear of that. Like we're scared of everything. Right. So anything that I'm scared of, you can probably take the opposite of it. And I'm scared of that too. Right. So that just shows like how much our lives are driven by fear. It's like, well, I'm afraid to fail. Well, I'm also afraid to succeed, because if I succeed, now there's a standard. Now you're going to expect me to perform at this level at my job every week or every day. And that terrifies me, because maybe I overperformed that day. Now the standard isn't my real, a good reflection of my normal day. Right. So I'm afraid of relapse. I'm afraid of sobriety. What's it going to be like? People aren't going to like me. How am I going to be happy? I'm afraid, whatever it is, I'm afraid of the opposite too. So I'm going to be afraid. Like I'm afraid of fucking everything. Yeah. It's just everywhere I go, I'm wrapped up in this fear, right? So we have to learn how to deal with that. And we have to learn how to see it for what it is. Yeah. Right. And where it stems from, you were talking about how all these other emotions and feelings stem from fear. Okay, so where does the fear come from? Right. Well, the fear comes from my ego, right? It comes from self, right? Because the reason I'm afraid of these things is because self-reliance always fails me, right? Because I can't control it, right? So I'm afraid of skydiving, right? Because I'm afraid my parachute isn't going to open, right? I have no control if whether or not this parachute is operational, or whatever it is, right? I there's a lack of control there. And that's why I'm afraid, because I feel like I can't control it, so I'm afraid, and I have to try to control it even more, and that usually makes it worse. And then it just spirals out of control, and then it's a shit show. And like, that's why I don't do things, because look how it turned out. And it's like, well, you kind of went into it like all cockeyed and kind of crazy. That's why it turned out that way. Is you're putting your paws on it. Right. That's why it's fucked up, because you're trying to narrate or change the narrative of the way it works out. Yeah. It always comes back to self.
Something I can. So we're talking about speaking at a meeting or in public speaking, whatever it is. I've spoke many times. You've heard me tell my story at different times and vice versa. And I can look back and I know, when I got sober this time, I don't think I actually spoke at a meeting until I was like So that was at my wife and Nate's celebration, and I think I was maybe year and a half sober at the time. That was the first time I had went to tell my story again, and I was so scared, right? And I was terrified, and I was like, "Oh man!" Like, the fear was just there.
I remember it.
And I went in there, and I mean, I fully just I let God in, right? And I don't remember necessarily the things I said during that time, but I know like I was like on fire.
Right.
You know what I mean? And after I was done, even several people were like, "Man, that was great." Like, and I was like, I was like, man, that wasn't even me. That was me going out on some faith and letting God take the wheel and letting him speak through me. And then I can say that most times after that, I'm still fearful, but I try to control it when I'm going to speak.
Yeah.
And I can see the difference between then, when I was just like, you know what, please, like, do your work through me and use me and let's help someone.
Yeah.
Versus the times where I go to speak and I'm full of fear, but I'm trying to be the one to control.
You're trying to remember
and
everything.
I'm trying to remember what I'm going to do. And then every time I'm done, I'm like, oh man.
Well, that's the perfect example of why we don't script this podcast.
Right.
Right. We don't talk about what we're going to talk about until like right before we turn it on.
Literally.
Literally.
People probably think we prep this shit. We don't.
No, it's just like, let's, how about fear? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. You do an intro and we'll figure it out, because it's more natural and it's authentic and it's not like, well, I've got all these things I got to stick to. Here's what I'm going to say when he says it. Like, that just causes more anxiety and it causes more fear and it causes this robotic way we come across of, I got to remember, okay, now he's going to stop talking and I'm supposed to say this, know, and then it doesn't come off right, and that's when we have like brain farts. It's like, and I have those anyways at times, but I've noticed whenever I've spoken at a meeting, if I go in there
with a script,
it does not come off as well. No. It does not. It's not even close. I'm like, man, that was kind of clunky. Sorry, guys. So, and I think the reason why that happens is, I think, well, with fear, right? Like we put all these restrictions on ourselves, right? It's like we come up with this ceiling. Like this is our ceiling. It's kind of like we get up there to talk and then we just lose our train of thought. And it's like, because the moment got bigger than what we thought we could handle, than what the message is or what we can, than us, right? And it's because I set this setting of, this is where I can go to when I'm hindering myself, because I'm telling myself, like, I mean, the sky's the limit, right? So why am I putting a barrier on my recovery? Because, and it's something I was thinking about today. I was just kind of like reflecting a little bit after this thing I did today. And I was like, man, 5 years ago, if you would have told me that I was doing the things now that I'd be doing them, I would have been like, you're crazy, man. Like, I can't do that.
Yeah. I
can't do that. Like, that's not going to work. Like, there's no way I can do that. Yeah. And so I had all these barriers, all these false limitations that I stuck on myself. And it was all because of fear. Yeah. It was like, no, I can't do that. Like, I mean, my goals were like kind of stupid, like looking back at the time, I thought they were lofty. Yeah. I was like, you're telling me to write down anything that if I could have it in 5 years, and I'm writing like stuff down that I got in 6 months, but I thought they were lofty at the time. I was like, there ain't no way this one's happening. Right. And it was like 6 months later, check that off. Yeah, but that's just, our second episode, Jace was on here and he was talking about the same thing. It was like, we sell ourselves way short, because of all these fears. And all these, and the fears lead to everything else, right? And you were kind of describing that earlier. Like fear leads to anger, but fear also leads to like self-doubt. It leads to telling myself I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
All this negative self-talk that I have. And before you know it, I've talked myself out of that job, that promotion, that relationship, whatever it is. I've already psyched myself out. You know, I was at the gym about a month ago, and I was doing squats, and I was like, I'm feeling pretty good tonight. I've set this goal a while back of I want to squat this weight, right? And I'm not going to say how much it is because I don't want to make people feel little, right? No, they'll probably like, that's all you squat. But it was a good benchmark for me, right? And I was like, I want to get up to that. And I was close. And one night I was like, man, feeling pretty good. I was like, I think I can get it. And I walked over to this guy, like I found the biggest guy in the gym. I was like, hey man,
You're gonna need to catch.
yeah, I was like, hey man, I was like, I'm gonna try and do this PR on this squat over here, and I'm not sure if I can get it. I was like, I need you to spot me in case I don't get it. And he was like, you're not gonna get it. And I was like, well, what? He's like, yeah, you're not gonna get it. Not with that attitude, you're not. And I was like, oh. And he was like, you've already psyched yourself out, man. He was like, this is mental. He's like, do me a favor. He was like, how about I go over there and watch you squat that weight? He's like, go lift that weight. And I was like, fuck yeah. Dude, I went over there and lifted it, no problem.
Right.
Like, it was easy.
Yeah.
And he was like, throw another 40 pounds on. I threw 40 more pounds on and did it. And he didn't have to help me. And I was like, wow. It's like I did 40 more pounds than I thought I could do, all because of my mindset.
Yeah.
Because I was going into it already thinking I'm going to fail.
Yeah.
Like I was defeated. I was already beat. If I would have if he wouldn't have said that to me, if he would have said, yeah, I got you, we'll go over there, probably wouldn't have lifted it. I probably wouldn't have got it because I didn't have the right mindset of doing it. And like, that doesn't just apply in the gym.
No.
Right? That applies in recovery. It applies at work. It applies in relationships. Like, our mindset is like very powerful. You know, like, now I'm not going to just recover because I want to, right? But if I really want to, there's a really good chance that I'm going to put in the actions that I need to do. You know, so it's my mindset. If I'm thinking I'm going to relapse eventually,
Yeah.
because that's what I always do, you know, and I've had that mindset before. And guess what? I got drunk, you know, because I manifested it. I manifested it. I was like, I'm getting drunk again, I'm sure. So, you know, a week later I was drunk,
Yeah.
you know, but this time it was like, I'm going to it like, maybe I can do this if I get out of the way. Or I should say, maybe God can do this.
Yeah.
I can't. So maybe he can. And I think I'll let him. And the next thing you know, been sober 5 years.
Right.
And it all started from a mindset of, yeah, I'm scared to death, but fuck it.
Yeah.
Let's fucking go. Let's dive in. And that's what Josh told me in the beginning. He was like, we're just going to throw you in the deep end, man, see if you can swim. I was like, okay. And I swam. You know, sometimes it's that simple. It's like, just go. Just go. You know, God will get you where you need to go.
So I'm thinking about, like, right now, what is parenting is challenging, right?
Yes.
And that's a real fear for me.
Yeah.
You know, I've got 3 kids, and from 3 to 12, you know, so there's a wide range there.
Yeah, yours are a lot younger than mine.
Yeah, so it's like, that's scary to me, though, because
What, like, in what aspect? Like the world that they're going to grow up in, or
the world that they're going to
do they have your genetics, or
that, you know, the world they're growing up with, the world they're growing up in. Certain things I see some of them do to where I'm like, man, they might be
like me.
like me.
Yeah.
They might have what I have. And I hope that's not the case, you know. But, you know, especially boys, dude, like my daughter, she's pretty easy, and has been.
It's a whole different set of fears with the girls.
Now now we're getting into those teenage years, so I'm like, I don't know what the fuck to expect now, and things are happening where I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But then my boys, like, I love them to death, and I can say this because I was one too as a kid. But kids are assholes.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
They're precious and they're gorgeous, but I don't want any more.
Yeah, like, so, you know, something I've tried to really work on too is like, you know, anxiety, like, they can be overwhelming sometimes, you know, and then the anxiety gets going and, you know, just trying to watch how you respond to them. You know what I mean? Because all that plays a part in their little minds.
It does.
And
More
the
than
way
we
they go.
think.
Right, you know.
They know more than
so-
what we think.
A big part of that fear is like, I don't want to fuck my kids up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want them to grow up feeling some kind of way. You know, I don't know if what I'm saying is making any sense.
No,
but,
it does.
You know,
you want to be a good example. You want to be a role model for your kids.
So, and you know that I don't know. I think I've even talked about it on here before at the beginning of this year when we were talking about things we want to do different. And you know, there's patience with my kids. You know, I've really been trying to work on that because, like I said, these two boys
They know where those buttons are.
Boy, they're
going to push
lot,
them.
man. They are a lot, you know.
Yeah.
But that's one of my biggest fears right now that, you know, I get to try to face on a daily basis, and I don't do it perfect, you know, but I get the opportunity to be there and continue to work through that fear and try to raise adults, because you know a lot of people say, well, I'm raising these kids. Well, that's not the goal here.
Yeah, we don't want them to grow up to be kids.
Yeah, we're here trying to raise young adults, you know. So that's one of my current fears that I have. And that was one of the things I noticed when I'm doing this 4-step with my sponsor right now, and I'm going through these fears, and it's all stuff related like that. You know what I mean? So fear is still there in a lot of aspects in my life, but what do we do with it? How do we handle it? Not perfectly over here, but I'm trying. You know?
Yeah, and it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't want it to come across like it's just like, oh, you just don't do it. It's not that flippant. Like it's like, when you're going through it, right? When you're going through a hard time, or you got a tough decision to make, or you're scared, you don't know which, do I go left? Do I go right? Like, I don't know, I'm scared. I don't want to fuck up. I don't want to make another bad decision. Right. It's real easy for someone just to say, oh, just let go and let God, and you're like, man, I'm trying, but you understand, I'm right in the middle of it right now. And it's hard to see sometimes when we're right in the middle of it, and that's where I think practice comes in, right? And you made a good point a second ago. You're like, not going to do it perfect, right? We're going to fuck up.
Yeah, that's
okay, but at least we're fucking up trying.
Yeah,
because if we don't try at all, we're really going to fuck up, right? So the alternative of not facing the fear is actually worse than facing the fear, even if it comes true. Because if you don't face it, it's definitely coming true.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it will immobilize you. But what I mean by like practice is, say I got this thing, it's this big, right? The problem is I can't always think like, okay, I got this thing that's this big. I need to figure out how to handle something that's this big. Maybe I need to start finding some smaller fears in my life, some of the little ones that are this big, and work on conquering them, mastering them. And then once I can do those, I got a little momentum, then I can start dealing with bigger issues.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why we do these inventories. So we can look at all of these things and we can say, man, my life is really driven by fear. Like it's really touches every part of my life. So maybe I can work on some of these small things, get some wins, get some practice at how I respond when I go into this fear and I face it, right? So say I got a fear of public speaking. But maybe I also have one of something a lot smaller. And I tackle this one that's a lot smaller, and then I see how I feel afterwards. I go, oh, that wasn't that bad. Like I lived. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't the end of the world. Okay, well, maybe this bigger thing isn't the end of the world either. Right. And it's just like a mind shift of, I can do things. It's like, I think that's part of the problem with fear is that we learn this at an early age. Something happened somewhere to where we got scared.
Yeah.
And these things happen to where it's like, I can't, right? I can't do that, But then once we start realizing we can actually do things in this world, then it's like it's like a superpower. It's like, I want to do some shit now. Like, I want to challenge myself now. It scares the hell out of me, when I challenge myself. But the reward I get on the back end of it is well worth the 5 minutes or 15 seconds worth of fear leading up to it. It's well worth it, because it robs me. Fear's a thief. Like, it robs me if I don't face it. There was I watched a video a couple years ago, or like early on in sobriety, and I'm going to butcher the hell out of this story, but I'll get the gist of it, right? Have you ever heard the story about the cows and the buffaloes?
Yes.
In the storm, right? Where a storm comes through the pasture or whatever, and the buffalo, they just stand there and they weather the storm, and the cows run, and then they get exhausted and they fall down and they get all anxious, and then the storm still comes and gets them, right? So it's like you're not avoiding the storm. All you're doing is causing yourself more anguish by trying to avoid it. But the buffalo, they just face it right on, like, okay, I'm gonna get wet. Big deal.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking buffalo. Right? I'm gonna get wet.
Right.
It's like, okay, the storm passes and they're on with their life. Now, but instead the cows are over there all exhausted, laying down and getting rained on, while they feel like shit.
Yeah.
It's a totally different mindset.
Yeah.
This is a subtle thing. It's like, just weather it.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna kill you.
Like we talk about it, mindsets are a big part of it. And, just like you're talking about the storm, that's serenity. Serenity is peace within the storm.
Oh, it's coming. The storm's coming.
Yeah. Like,
it's coming.
How are you going to handle that adversity?
Yeah.
That's what it's about. How do you face it? And that's what true serenity.
Character.
Yeah. It's what true serenity is not before it comes and after it comes, but while it's happening and you're in the middle of it, that's when you're going to figure it out.
Well, that's what really reveals our character.
Yeah.
Is when times are hard, how do you act?
Yeah.
How do you react? How do you behave when things aren't going your way?
Yeah.
When life's not going your way, when there's challenges. That shows your real character there. Are you going to fold like a deck of cards, or are you actually going to handle it with some grace and some dignity? Are you going to, every time something gets hard, you're going to run to the liquor store?
I used to.
I did too. I did too. And, that's not a good way to live.
No.
There's so much more out there. And like, you and I, like, it's the tip of the iceberg. It really is. Like, I believe that. I believe that we're all supposed to do something great with our life, and there's something really cool that God has out there for us. And I don't want to live a life of regret. That is scary to me.
Yeah.
That's a fear that I have, is that I'm going to get old. I'm already old, but I'm going to get older, and I'm going to be 65, 70 years old and be like, man, like, where'd my life go? Like, I didn't try anything. Like, I was just settling and just content with not drowning today. Just keeping my head barely above water. I didn't drown today. And that's just not, I don't want to live like that. I want to at least go out saying, I gave it a shot.
Yeah.
Gave it a shot.
I mean, absolutely. Like, in the beginning, that's what it was for me. I had to keep it that simple of, I just want to be sober today.
Yeah.
And that
for
was,
sure.
that was good enough in the beginning for me. just to be sober. But as time goes on, it's about so much more than that.
Yeah, it has
you
to
know?
evolve.
Yeah, has to evolve. And thank God for sponsorship and the 12 steps and my immediate support group and my family and my wife and kids and everybody who has supported me, and thank God for them, to where now I have a little faith and I can step out and deal with fear today and try new things and strive for better, because I don't want to just be sober for the day. That's not my goal anymore.
Me either.
Like, obviously it is my goal. I want to stay sober.
Right.
But that's not the mindset today, where it's, as long as I stay sober today, I'm good.
Yeah.
In a sense, true. As long as I stay sober, I will be good, but I want more today. Yeah. And I'll face the fears to keep pushing myself.
I told one of my sponsees one time, and we were kind of talking about that, and I said, man, I smell more. Mm-hmm. There's more. Like, and it's there for the taking. Like, it's yours. Yeah. God wants you to have it, right? He wants you to be happy, joyous, and free, and so, and that involves being sober, obviously, right? We wouldn't be able to do all these things if we weren't sober. Like, that's hugely important. Right, to this whole process, right? Yeah. But if we stay in the process, we stay sober.
Yeah.
Right. So, and if I stay in the process, then I'm not so with fear. Something I've been trying to do lately is not focus on the destination. Right. I'm focused on the process. Yeah, if I focus on the process, because the process is the destination, right? The destination isn't this job or this over here, like, because that's not the end,
right?
So the process is what I'm focused on, and everything else just seems to work out, man. It really does. Like, I know that sounds like horse shit to some people, and I thought it was horse shit. It's like, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, no, like, that's not true. Like, that's just whatever. Like, that's dumb. Like, it's not going to work that way. Well, I had never tried it either. Me either. And then I tried it, and I'm like, wow, it kind of works. Not kind of, it does work.
Yeah, it does work.
But yeah, fear. Fuck some fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck some fear.
I guess you got anything else before we wrap up?
Nah, man, this was good. No, I don't really have anything other than, like, fear is going to happen. Just want to say that to people, like, you're going to experience it, but there's freedom on the other side of that fear. Like, that's what's on the other side of it.
Absolutely.
Stop staying in I heard something today. It said, what did it say? You either have a choice to live free in the jungle or you can live in the zoo, right? So you can roam free without fear, or you can be in a cage. It's basically, I butchered it, I'm sure, but that's basically what the gist of it was. You can either live in a cage or you can be free, and the choice is ours. Yeah. Which one do we want to do? So if you've been living in a cage and you don't want to live in a cage, then we got to do something different. Yeah. Right. And a lot of times it starts just by taking a step, step out on some faith, try something. You'll be amazed with what can happen. Well, with what can happen.
Yeah. All right. Good shit, man. All right, guys. We appreciate you tuning in.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. We love you guys. We appreciate all the support, and we will catch you next time.
Next time.